Hi, my name is Dr. Rayshawn Ray, and this is my daily thought. Racism will kill us. Thus, self-care is imperative. Racism will kill us, thus self-care is imperative. I want to talk about a student of mine who's now very successful working at a large Fortune 500 company. But his freshman year of college, I was teaching him in a specific course for minority, poor, and rural males coming into college and dealing with their adjustment to college. And the course was supposed to be all about teaching them these skills that supposedly, they didn't get at their local school because of due to funding and under resources, and the fact that their school really wasn't equal compared to some of the schools that my more affluent students were coming from. And after the first day of class, I came out. I thought that it was a successful lecture. I thought that I was teaching them what I was supposed to be teaching them. And a student, his name is Marty Curry, he said, "Ray, how do you do it, man?" And I was like, "Do what?" He was like, "Do this." And he starts looking around the campus, and Indiana is a gorgeous campus, right? One of the nicest campuses I've been on. And he goes, "How do you do this, man? It's just so white, open, and airy." And what's interesting is that this was August. He wasn't talking about snow. What he was talking about is being in a predominantly white space and being marked. Because then I said, "What do you mean by that?" And he said, "Well, man," he said, "white students walk around, they either look at me like I'm invisible, they don't speak to me even when I smile, they, kind of shudder away." He said, they look at me like I'm a deer, right? He said, "They look at me like I'm a deer." And I was like, wow, that's deep. I said, here I am in this class supposed to be teaching these kids how to adjust to college, teaching them skills that they supposedly didn't get. And mind you, Marte was basically almost a straight A student in high school, right? And I began to think, and I was like, that's not what he needs. Him and the others need to know how to adjust to this particular environment. So what that taught me is, in order to deal with depression, we must optimize ourselves. In order to fight social injustices and help others do the same, we must learn to thrive and not just survive in predominantly white environments. And see, I was primed to do this because of my own experiences 4 or 5 years before my first year in graduate school. My first year in graduate school, I moved into an apartment. I was all excited. In short, my neighbors below me started calling the police on me. They would come so regularly that the police would say, "Ray, hey man, we got called. They said it was a party, and we had to come. We got called to come to your residence. We just came to check, and we'll let you go." This is what's interesting. I lived by myself at the time. I was literally studying in my room. I mean, it was so much reading. I mean, it was just insane. I mean, I was reading 1,000 pages a week. And so I didn't have time to do anything else. I didn't really know anyone. And so what was interesting, my neighbors were calling the police on me. And so when I say that I've been stopped over 20 times, that's just stopped in a vehicle. That's not including how many times the police have come up to my door, how many times they've stopped me when I've been walking down the street doing jump outs, as they say in DC, right? So, I mean, we could go on and on about these sort of interactions. The point is that the reason why this is important is because I tried to do all of this posturing to deal with this, right? I tried to go talk to my neighbors. They denied it. Even though after about the 13th time, the police said, I said, "I'm pretty sure it's my neighbors below me." I said, "But I had a conversation with him," and they were just like, and so it was one of those situations where their silence was their acceptance that, okay, I was right. I even wrote a letter to all of my neighbors telling them that I was here getting my PhD, that I wasn't doing anything wrong. And what I figured out, I was like, I'm not doing anything wrong. So why am I sitting up here trying to make other people feel comfortable for the fact that they're uncomfortable with my blackness, right? So what I did was I started thinking of ways to be agentic, thinking of ways to exert my agency. So that spring, I got the National Science Foundation Fellowship. That fall, one of the reasons why I wanted to go to Indiana, in addition to it being a great school and a great fit for me, and obviously well over a decade, I think that's proven to be true, is that I wanted to purchase a home. Property was cheap there. So in fall 2004, I purchased my first home at the age of 24. And I remember when I moved out, I put a note on my neighbor's door that said, "Thank you for calling the police on me. Because of your discriminatory acts, I just bought my first house at 24. Mic drop, right? And so the point is that I learned how to deal with these sort of things, right? But see, this is what's important, is that as it relates to Marte, I had to show them and teach them how to deal with racism and whiteness in particular via racial composition. So see, racism operates on three main levels. I mean, you have interpersonal, which most people know. Most people stop there. You have institutional racism, which is the way that racism is embedded in the institutions and the policies that we have. So for example, as it relates to education, the narrative, the myth is that everyone has equal education, that all schools are the same, but we know that the way that institutional racism operates is through school funding, through local property taxes, right? And local property taxes is then used to fund local schools. Well, how is that about racism? Well, neighborhoods are embeddedly segregated due to race and class. So now all of a sudden it comes back to the fact that policies are put in place to individualize education and not deal with racial segregation that is rooted in redlining and restrictive covenants and policies that restricted minorities from having access to predominantly white spaces and resources. So, and then the third way is to deal with social context, right? This meso level of analysis in the middle. And racial composition is one of the main ways we think about that, right? So specific living spaces or spaces, social spaces where people interact are the ways we deal with that. So we have to make our racial context smaller. In Bloomington, the percentage of black students was 4%. Overall, the overall minority rate when I was there was around 10%. The city was very similar to that. So what that meant is you have to shrink it down and find specific networks that can help you cope, right? For me, I had several people who helped me cope, a group of people from, Dr. Keon Gilbert to Dr. Ted Ingram to Alta Thornton, who is an administrator, to Charlotte Horner, to Rashonda Ross, who is an administrator. I mean, the list could go on and on of the group of people who were at Indiana over time that sort of helped me cope and deal with these sort of things. The reason why this is important is because, see, microaggressions act as paralysis. I mean, they literally paralyze you. And microaggressions function as little cuts. Microaggressions are these little small slights of racism, right, or sexism or homophobia that cut into you on a regular basis. So for example, Brandon Taylor, who I've talked about, he had another traveling while black incident, which isn't surprising. I mean, because he travels a lot for work. And so he said there were all white people in the line in front of him in the security gate. There were all white people behind him. He was the only black person on line. And he was checking in, and the person said, you need to get all the stuff out your pocket, and you need to make sure that you have all your stuff together. We need to check your bag. Now, it's not unusual for people to check bags, but it was the way that the person said it, as if Brandon had never traveled before, right? So here he is dealing with all of this posturing in a suit, right? And so it becomes very clear the way that these sort of interactions operate. And so we actually have to check these microaggressions and these discriminatory acts, right? And we can check them in a multitude of ways. I have sort of three main ways I do it. First, I check it on the spot. If it's a person I'm never going to see before, I have to deal with this situation now, because if not, I'm going to be the only one dealing with it throughout my life and having continuous collective memories that make me think about these particular incidents, right? If it's a person I'm going to see again, I kind of act like a cat. I wait until an opportunity where I can pull it out and be like, you remember that time? So for example, I remember at work, it's my first year physically at Maryland, and I like to print out my papers and walk around and read an article before I like to fill it, read it before I submit it. I'm walking around the building and reading with a paper and a pen, and this person runs out of his office and he's like, hey, they went that way. And I was like, who? What are you talking about? He was like, the maintenance men. You're with the maintenance guys, right? They went that way. And I was like, I have on a button-up shirt and some slacks. Like, what would make you think I'm with the maintenance guys? And I was like, no, I'm not with them. And I was just trying to be focused. I was like, I don't even have time for this today. And so, but I did walk down there and see that all the maintenance men were minorities. And I was like, oh, okay. He saw that they were minority. He saw that I was minority. He didn't care what I had on, right? Because we know that doesn't really matter. Instead, it was about my blackness, right? It was about my non-whiteness at that moment. So I found out that he worked on the art side. So, because we share our building with the art department. And so a few months later, some of my colleagues were like, oh yeah, have you met Ray Sean? He's here finally after a couple of years being in Berkeley. And he said, oh, how are you doing? Yeah, nice to meet you. I said, hold on up. I have met you. you're the guy who confused me for the maintenance people, and I was dressed like this. And he was just like, and everybody was just like, see, those are the moments, personally, I live for. Because as uncomfortable as people, as minorities are made in predominantly white spaces, we can take these few moments, right? The point is that the next time he sees a person walking around, maybe he'll just pause and think about kind of what he's doing, right? So you can make like a cat. You can also start a petition, right? And I think petitions are important, and I think writing letters are important. I'll write a letter to corporate in a minute if I feel like I've been discriminated against, right? And it's not to get anything out the deal, but it's to make you aware that first, you have people who are doing discriminatory acts, and second, you probably have policies in place that allow them to do it, whether that be hiring practices or policies that allow these forms of microaggressions to continue, right? And unfortunately, what you're doing is you're messing up your consumer base at the end of the line.